You are listening to The Underground Subway with host David Alston, a podcast dedicated to giving you the strategies to live a free and better life. Here is David Alston.
Good evening and welcome to the Underground Subway. I am David Alston, your host. Thank you for joining us for another episode of this podcast in which we discuss how to make life better, how to move forward in life, how to eliminate all of the struggles and the chains that hold us back. We've been having a wonderful time discussing things with you, everything from health all the way to mental awareness. And we just had a wonderful time, and our guests have been fantastic. And I'm just excited about this episode of the podcast because I have a very special guest joining us for this particular episode of the Underground Subway. My guest is Steph Winkler.
Yeah.
Winkeler.
Winkler.
Got it correct. Winkler. Let me
You
tell you a
got it.
little bit about Steph, my guest. She has a decade of experience as a Spanish and language therapist working with children. She enjoys creating lessons and activities from scratch for teaching speech language concepts. She loves putting ideas into action and creating clip art stories to ignite children's imaginations while helping them build upon their learning skills. Steph feels has a unique perspective of bringing stories to life through the lens of speech and language. She also has a love and experience in the creation of a story from idea to the finished product. One of the things that we're going to talk about in a little bit is the fact that there's a reward in writing, designing, formatting, and editing a story. It takes a lot of focus and work, and she loves creating meaningful storybooks for children that she serves in her profession. Welcome, Steph, and tell us a little bit about yourself outside of what we discussed, and then we're just going to have a little conversation.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me, David. I'm happy to be here and talk about how to make life better. And yeah, I think you covered a lot in the bio. So other than that, I'm a mom of two little ones and obviously have a wonderful family. And just really loving and enjoying my life with all of the things that I do. In addition, though, I'd like to also add that I create journals. I have a journal system that I created that has really helped with contentment in life and really seeing the patterns in your life that are going to help you become a better person and kind of maybe eliminate some of those habits that you might have that you need to, kind of reduce in your life so that you can live to your fullest.
That sounds wonderful, Steph. Talk to us about, I didn't mention that in the introduction. Talk to us about that journaling aspect. How can journaling, if a person just hears that and they'll say, well, journaling, you got just a big thick notebook that you just, well, I'll put it like this. From my era growing up, journaling was the same as a young lady having a diary. If someone just says, well, why would I journal? Talk to us about the importance of a journal and what is it? What do I need to do to journal?
Yeah, well, so that's great. A great question. So what is journaling? Journaling is just a record of our experiences, our ideas and thoughts, either put out on written paper. And now with the lovely technology we have, there are many who keep digital journals as well. And
Okay.
there's so many different ways that you can journal. And I always love to say there's no one right way to journal. So whatever works for you is what is best for you.
Mhm.
And I would also say, in my experience, you talked about how can journaling help you. One of the ways it's helped me is when I'm going through a really tough spot in life, I will sit down with just pen to paper, and it could just be a piece of computer paper, right? And I'll just write out everything that I'm feeling. And sometimes I'll fill that entire piece of paper at the backside, and then I might have to get another piece. And I find that when I'm done writing, that's whenever I feel like I've gotten everything out. that there's this huge weight lifted off of me, and then I might just shred that. So that's also another form of journaling that people can do. You are always welcome to shred things and get rid of things that might not, that you might not want to keep around, that you just need to get out. So that's one way, is just kind of freestyling. And if for me, you can freestyle and keep that journal if you want in a lovely big notebook, like you said. It's a little bit different than a diary, though, in the sense that journaling is a way to kind of also look at patterns in your life. I think it's also a nice way to find out things about yourself that you wouldn't necessarily know if you didn't journal. And I think that comes to life when you put pen to paper or when you're typing on a computer program or app.
Question about, because you said so much there and it's so powerful. I know a lot of people, myself included, we go through a lot of grief, especially with COVID. We lose loved ones. I was talking to someone recently about not journaling, but we were talking about grief counseling, and all of this, I guess, is making life better. What do you think about journaling in the sense of writing a letter to someone who is no longer with you?
Oh, I think I love that. I think journaling or writing to kind of get through grief is an amazing way to help kind of get everything out in front of you on paper. And yeah, I mean, I have done that in the past too. It might have been during a breakup or something with someone that I no longer saw anymore. And writing a letter to them just helped me get kind of through my emotions. It kind of helped me see kind of where I was feeling stuck and what feelings I was going through. And then it also helped me say things to that person in a loving way to kind of also help just kind of let them go in my mind, type of thing, but also, of course, keep them in my heart, but let go of some of the hardships that I was having
Right.
during that time.
I'm noticing your bio the decades, and I've also had a couple of decades, 20 years in education. And when you look at education, and I work with children with disabilities, writing is a lost art, especially with the way technology is. Handwriting is a lost art, or expressing yourself outside of a video game or text message. How important is it to journal or to write in regard to the next generation? Because you said you're a mother as well. How much emphasis do you place on that?
Well, I think it's really important. I think the way in which we do it is also kind of unique to the person who's writing. So I think putting pen to paper is my choice, but I'm tolerant. Like if my child wants to start a digital journal down the road, that typing aspect is fine. I do feel, though, personally, that I get more out of it when I write it down. Like myself, my fine motor movements of actually like writing down what I'm feeling. For some reason, that solidifies in my brain a little bit more, and it's more helpful for me than just typing it out on a computer screen. I feel like the words kind of stabilize more or get kind of entrenched in my mind more, if that makes any sense,
Right.
than typing.
Right. So how can that make life better? Because we're talking about, the theme of the underground subway is the fact that I'm third cousins. My grandmother was first cousins with Harriet Tubman, who led people to freedom through the Underground Railroad. We're 2022, so we don't use a railroad, we use a subway system. How do we pull people from their past and make things better for them if we were just going to focus on that speech language part of journaling, or anything else? In your opinion, in your view, it doesn't have to be journaling. What do we need to do to help people to be better in 2022?
I think it starts with being kind, right? Like
Yes,
just
definitely.
being good and kind human beings to one another, knowing that we're all human and we're all everyone's going through some sort of battle, no matter what you might think from the outset. I think yeah, being kind to everyone that you meet, along the way. I also feel like, I guess, if I go back to the journaling piece, one thing that I do every day is I do write in a journal that I created. I was telling you about that at the beginning of in the
Mhm.
introduction. But so I write a reflection of my day, and then I circle a dot to signify my contentment with the day. So for example, a clear dot represents significant contentment. When I look back at my day, I know that I've had a really nice day. I feel good about the day. I feel good about the events that have happened. And then the next dot is half clear, half gray. And that just means that parts of the day were amazing. I feel really content about them. But other aspects of the day were not so content. And then the last dot is the gray dot. It means significant discontent. So that when I look back on my day, there were so many things that happened that really were not good for me, my mind, my mental health and well-being. And what I do is I look for patterns, and then those
Mhm.
dots are added up at the end of the week, and I'm able to see those patterns in my life. So I think that's a really good way for people to kind of start to just become aware of how their daily life is impacting their contentment.
That is so great because we think we can get better overnight, but sometimes it's a process. And you were saying that, and I was laughing because if you ask someone, how did your day go? Oh, it was terrible. Well, what happened? And they really can't express it. So I think it's good, like you said, to just journal. Let me I can be able to look back and see this is why my day was rough. This is why my day was good. I think
Mhm.
that is so important. You authored a book, you authored something of a guided journal for
Yes.
self-improvement. Um,
Yes.
in most of my podcasts, I talk about the fact that you're in St. Charles, Missouri.
Well, so actually I'm in St. Louis, Missouri, which is
Okay.
about 20 minutes away. I
Okay.
couldn't find St. Louis on there.
Okay, I got you. Well, you're in St. Louis, and I'm in
Mhm.
Raleigh, North Carolina, but I'm originally from Philadelphia. And there's a movie called Philadelphia with Denzel Washington and Tom Hanks. And Denzel Washington is an attorney, and he asks a witness a question, and he says, "Explain it to me like I'm a 6-year-old or a 4-year-old. I'm not sure what age, but I really love that because he was saying, tell it to me, not like I'm a college grad, but like I'm a child." And I said that I want to ask you this question. If you can explain it to me like I'm a 6-year-old, what is
Mhm.
self-improvement?
Self-improvement is taking action each day to get better at something. So it's a goal. It's really kind of setting a goal in your mind, whether that's a 6-month goal out, a long-term 6-month goal to a year out, and then setting up little short-term goals along the way. So if I were to tell a child, a 6-year-old, if they asked, "Hey, how can I get better at kicking a ball?" Like if you're going to talk
Mhm.
about with kids, you got to really kind of talk to them on their level. What is a long-term goal to help a child get better at this? Okay, let's talk about goal setting then. I
Right.
would help the child create a long-term goal, and then every week sit down and build, or every couple of weeks sit down and build some short-term goals so that child could get better and better, gradually and slowly, because it's
Mhm.
really hard to meet a long-term goal next week. So that's why you break it down into bite-sized chunks for them. So if they're trying to get better at playing soccer, for example, you start with taking, okay, so if their whole long-term goal would be, let's get better at soccer, let's break it down and make some short-term goals. The first one might be, let's go out and practice kicking the ball this week. And then next week, we're going to go out and practice dribbling the ball to the goal. And then next week, we're going to work on shooting the goal and scoring. And again, just tweaking your short-term goals as you go. And then within 6 months time, you should be able to see that there's a lot of progress that has been made by what you're doing with your actions each day. I think it's all about action steps.
In your experience, in your many years of experience, would you say that you've ever come across someone that have you talked to that has had unrealistic long-term goals? And if so, what would you consider something that's just unrealistic long-term? I mean, we know they can be unrealistic short-term. For me to say, well, I'm gonna lose 20 pounds in 3 days. That's unrealistic.
Right.
What about a long-term goal that people, set up and you sit back and say, I don't know about that.
I'm sure that I have probably done something like this in my life where I thought I could do this in a year's time. Um, that's a great question. I feel like when you create, let's say if you're having unrealistic expectations and you do set a long-term goal, you're going to find out pretty soon that that long-term goal is going to be really hard to make. So I guess it just depends on what's in someone's, like their ability to do it. Like, so can they actually, like, if your long-term goal is to become an NBA basketball player, that is great. But if you've never played basketball before, that,
Right.
you might be. So you have to really think about what's attainable for you. It has to be attainable. And if being an NBA basketball star is attainable, then that's amazing. But you're going to have to show some of your talent somewhere for that to happen down the road, or get started now so that that can happen in 10 years. I
Right.
just, I think attaining it is it reasonable? Is it an attainable goal? And I think you'll figure that out with the short-term goals that you create.
Right. What are some of the obstacles that people face in attaining their goals?
Um, well, I think, gosh, I think there are a lot of struggles people have, on a lot of levels. I mean, how much support do you have from the people in your life?
Mhm.
Financially, are you able to, do the things that are you able to even take the action steps to get those short-term goals going? Are you held back by finances? Are you, held back by health issues? So, my heart goes out to a lot of people who, where some of these things aren't attainable for them to do. And how do you overcome that? That is a good question.
Yeah.
I, so.
I really, I was just nodding as you were talking because one of the things one of the things in your bio, it says that you're the author of guided journals, and that was going to be my next or if final question was running. Time flies when you're really in a good conversation. Is it how important, because it says guided journals, how important
Mhm,
is it to have proper, you mentioned the word support, to have proper
mhm,
support, to have a good support staff in reaching your goals? We write our
right,
goals out, we write them down, we know what we want to do, but how important is it to have someone in your, not to just because if I have a goal in life, it's not enough,
mhm.
and I could be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, you're the professional, I'm just conducting the interview,
Oh, okay.
but
Okay.
I think it's not enough for me just to say I have a goal, and I don't need you to
Mhm,
tell me you can do it. I need someone to tell me this is what you need to do, or this is what you're doing incorrectly. So I don't just need a cheerleader. How important is to have a
mhm.
coach?
Or a mentor, right? Like a coach and a
Right,
mentor.
right.
Um, I I think it's I think it's really important to have mentors in your life, whether it be a teacher or obviously a family member or someone in your life that you can kind of look up to and go to for guidance.
Hmm.
Um, but I do think that you need some sort of support system, unless you're super motivated on your own and you're just going to go out there and do it, which is great. You'll probably get to a point where you do need a mentor in your life. So someone telling you, okay, I need to do something. So the guided journal that I created is more or less kind of just, hey, how was your day today? Let's reflect. And then at the end of the week, it asks another question about the patterns in your life. And then it continues to move through this whole system so that by the end of your year with this guided journal, you should see what is impacting your contentment, whether that be an environmental thing like the people you're working with, the job that you have, and then also thinking about internal things like your own inner critic, um, your own personal daily habits, that type of stuff. Both of those things kind of intertwined that are impacting your ability to be the best person that you can. And, sometimes we might find ourselves in maybe like a work setting, for example, where we are, there are people that we don't feel like are giving us the support we need. Maybe we don't feel like we have a sense of belonging in our work setting. Well, you're going to find that out as you're writing each day, because if your dot keeps coming up in the journal that I wrote, if it keeps coming up as a significantly gray day, you're going to
Right.
know, okay, there's
Right.
something about the workplace I'm in that's causing me to feel this way. Maybe I need to find a different place where I'm more valued and I feel a sense of belonging.
Right.
And so
That is so true. It's amazing. Well, how can we get our hands on any of your journal, or getting follow along with you with podcasting or what have you?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So I'm kind of just starting out in life and juggling a million things, probably like you are.
Yes.
We're all busy in the content creation world. So all of my stuff right now is on Amazon. The two journals I wrote, the first one's called My Year Dot by Dot. And
Okay.
that's, if you type that, and you can also go to myyeardotbydot.com.
Mhm.
And you'll be able to see both of the journals I have. The first one is My Year Dot by Dot, and that's just like a general guided journal about how your day and life is impacting you. And then the second journal, and the title, I'll let you figure it out when you get out there, but that one is a goal setting journal
Okay.
that will help you set a long-term goal and then little mini short-term goals along the way. And it does guide you.
Okay.
But that one is it's called Evaluate Your, and then it's SHIT, because that's I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. But so yeah, it's just really like to go out there and just take action on your life, and let's hit these goals, get the ground running, and
Okay. Sounds great. Yes, I've actually pulled it up, and yes, it's on Amazon. I'm looking at it right now. My year,
yeah,
dot by
yeah,
dot. Yes, I'm definitely going to
right.
give me a copy of that and start journaling.
Okay, well, sounds good. And if anyone's interested in the children's books, I don't know if that was an avenue you were wanting to put out there for your audience as well.
Sure.
Um, but because I am a speech and language therapist, and that's what I love doing, I do write children's books that have the speech and language concepts embedded in them.
Hmm.
And those are out on my website. It's called simplicityhappens.com.
Okay. Okay.
And those have if you click through some of my blogs, I actually do read alouds of those books.
Oh, that's
And then
great.
they're on Amazon if anyone wants to purchase them further. But I give away a lot of free activities, especially for parents and educators that work with all children ages 1 through 6+, but also kiddos who have speech and language delays, because that's where my heart is to support all kids,
Yes.
especially those kids with
Yes.
speech and language
Yes.
delays.
Yes, I agree with you. Well, Steph, thank you so much. We're running out of time, and I'm just excited. I want to thank you again for taking time out of your busy schedule. If you're a mom, then I know you have a busy schedule, uh, to just
I
talk
know.
to us, to just talk to us about life and about living a better life. And I want to thank you for your contribution to society and your contribution to the world. One of the great things about the world that we live in now is that we're not limited just to our local community or our local neighborhood, but we're able to impact the world. And I want to thank you for impacting the world with this concept, and your wisdom and your knowledge and your understanding about life is priceless. And I just want to thank you again for spending time on this podcast with us to help someone to be free from the chains that have been holding us back and be liberated and be free in this world.
Well, thank you, David. And I want to say too that I'm really inspired by you and I appreciate everything that you are doing. Um, so thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. To our listeners, thank you for joining us. Thank you for tuning in to the Underground Subway. This has just been a wonderful podcast. I'm excited about where we're going. I'm excited about the information that we heard today. Don't just listen to it once, go back and pick up something, pick up something. You got a lot of information coming in. The more you listen to the podcast, the more you gain something and pick up something going forward. Well, we're out of time, but we're certainly not out of our purpose. We have a passion for it. And what we're doing on this podcast is we're making preparation to achieve our purpose. As we end this podcast, the Underground Subway, I want to thank again our guest, Stephanie Winkler. I want to thank you all for joining us. And I need you to do me one favor tonight before you go to bed. Find a mirror, look yourself in the eyes, and ask yourself a question. Today, did I do something to help my life become better? Did I do something to, to help stimulate my own self-improvement? Or did I just waste another day? Think about that. And we'll see you next time on the Underground